Hello and welcome to Chess Please, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Kotov Syndrome. And Kotov Syndrome is one of the most common types of blunders that you will see on the chessboard, that you will make on the chessboard. I know for me it's definitely one of the reasons I lose most of my games. And Kotov Syndrome, coined by Grandmaster from the Soviet Union, Alexander Kotov, is basically where you find yourself, you calculate a move or you look at a candidate move and you look at your opponent's response and what might happen, and you throw away a move. You say, okay, actually looking into that doesn't really work for me, so I'm not going to play that. And maybe you do that one or two more times. So you've calculated and thrown away a couple of moves. And by the end of that calculation, you're a little bit tired, you're a little bit sleepy. So you end up just throwing something out on the board. You just be like, okay, whatever, this looks okay, bang, you just pay it. And you don't really calculate that at all. So that is Kotov Syndrome, when you fall into that sort of mental fatigue, maybe even time pressure on the clock, where rather than doing what you should do and calculate each and every move, or each move that you put on the board to its fullest extent, you end up blitzing out something that you haven't spent any time calculating. Now, Kotov has a full tree of analysis sort of method of mitigating against Kotov Syndrome, but that's quite Grandmaster stuff. It's quite high level stuff where you pick like 3 candidate moves, you analyze each one in order all the way to the very end, and then you look at the final position of each move and you compare those and you say, okay, well, I actually want position C, so we'll play move C. That's very high level stuff. It involves a lot of calculation and a lot of visualization, which for me would just lead me to fall into Kotov Syndrome a lot more. So the only advice I would give you as on a more beginner intermediate level is, for each move that you do put on the board, at least think of the move that your opponent will play next. A very simple kind of rudimentary chess thing is, there are 2 of you playing, so make sure that when you play a move, just look at the next move that you would play if you were your opponent. And this takes a bit of practice to get into. Just think, what would they respond? And you're going to miss stuff and you're going to blunder pieces still, but it's just a nice way to step into avoiding blunders, is think, what is the very next move I would play if I were my opponent? And that can help go a long way. So we're going to play a game and try to avoid falling into Kotov Syndrome. Let's jump in. Okay, jumping in here and trying not to fall foul of Kotov Syndrome, where we play a move that we don't calculate. A little bit tricky in the opening because I'm going to play opening moves where that's the beauty of knowing an opening, is you've done all that calculation in the past and you've memorized it. You don't really want to memorize moves for the middle game because you're just going to get lost in a sea of infinity. So we're just going to focus on the moves that we do need to calculate. In this case, I'm going to play this. We're going to play a little collie system / Indian game here. Probably should have started with this knight, but I think it's pretty transposable. And it maybe throws them off the scent of our collie system here. In this case, I'm going to do this. We're going to defend this pawn here. Again, we haven't gotten into Kotov Syndrome territory because this is all very familiar with us, but if you aren't as familiar with your openings, then you might need to start doing your full calculations before then. Okay, we're just going to capture here. Again, this is we have come up against this before, and we have a pretty nice setup. I'm going to castle. Not really concerned about that, to be honest, at this moment in time. We're going to castle. We're going to shift our rook here, shift our knight here. Sometimes in the collie system, or most of the time in the collie system, you'll put your knight here, but we don't really need to do that because we do have quite a free reign on the center of the board here as well. So we're going to just put our knight on a bit more of an active square here. And we're going to shift our rook across. There is a way that we can push this already. Let's Kotov. Let's not fall foul of Kotov Syndrome. We push this. This is, oh no, he's attacking this, but that's still defended. The rook can capture, but then we capture back. So the knight can capture and then capture back. So I think we will push. I think we're going to go ahead and push. They're going to push there, which is a little annoying, of course. Yeah, they push here. We're here. Do we capture there? They bring their knight in. We can take there. They'll take with the bishop. That's okay. I think I am going to play that. I know we haven't come out to any sort of fruition of a tactic. I don't think there's a tactic on the board, but I don't think this is too bad. It's what the move we want to play eventually. So we're not. That's not. We've done some work on this before we play this move. I think from here on out, we're probably going to need to do a little bit of work on every move we play. And the trouble being, it's hard to do that, and we only have 8 minutes left. Now that this is a 10-minute game, so most of our moves are going to be chewing into that clock pretty significantly, but we'll do our best. Here, for example, we have to make a choice. If we take this pawn, they will take probably, I would say probably with the knight they'll take. We can take with this knight because I don't really see a great future for that knight anyway. So I don't mind trading this knight, who could come in and start causing a ruckus on the queen side, for this knight who is, if I'm being frank, maybe getting in the way a little bit. So I am happy to take here and let the chips fall where they may. Yes, okay, and then I think we also want to calculate this. Taking the knight, they'll take back here, that's fine, we're not blundering. And that's really what I'm looking to avoid here, is a blunder rather than, you know, maybe we'll miss a tactic. That's fine by me. Now, one thing that okay, so the candidate moves that we have here at the moment, really want to play f5, f4 I should say, because, you know, puts the bishop under a little squeeze. Maybe they could jump here with a little bit of check. Again, I don't really mind, we can step the king in there. It's not a reason not to play that. Don't really, we could do this first to prevent this, which I don't hate. It maybe, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine, I think. I think we will do this. We'll develop our piece. Knight in here, don't really care because they haven't played their D pawn forward yet. So, okay, now I think f4 is going to be the order of the day. Let's just double check. They might just take back here. That's fine. Do a bit of structural damage, but it'll cost them their bishop. And they're a little bit underdeveloped, so I'm happy to just take more space in the center. Let's do it. Yep, that's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's groovy. Actually comes with a bit of tempo, which is nice. Obviously hitting the bishop. They could take back here. Knight could come out. Not a lot of great squares for the knight, so we could follow it up with that. Yeah, that's fine. We thought that's what they were going to do. Rook here could happen. This could happen. Oh, just one. Okay. Now some more calculation. Again, we don't want to take up too much time here. I'm seeing if we push here, they take here, we take here. I'd imagine they would take. I don't think they'll push because they don't want us to take there, or there's not really great for the knight to go. So push here, push, take, take. We're a little bit hurdy-gurdy. We're just going to have 3 pawn islands there. The knight will go here. Bishop will come here. Bishop will come here, and that's a little hinky. We don't need to do this, so we won't force it. I think we're just going to make a general improving move, which is going to be move our rook onto the b file here. That's what's going to happen. We didn't do a huge amount of calculation there, so maybe that was a little Kotov-y, little Kotov syndrome. Alas, that's just how it goes sometimes. Okay, so a move that I was looking at here a little bit earlier was queen here. Does set up a couple of different things. Defends this twice, which is important, but it also means we could potentially shift this rook here and set up a little battery against the queen. So I think I'm going to do that. We're going to develop the queen anyhow, connect our rooks. Do need to make a little bit more progress time-wise. That does let the knight in there, which we are okay with. I'm not delighted with it, but we're okay with it. I think we're just going to shift this bishop here. It's very safe here. There's no pawns that are going to attack it. Maybe the knight will maneuver itself around to attack it, but that's fine by me. We can start to cause that knight some problems there. So that's gonna be working for me. This is looking like our next move. It's just not a bad move in general. Definitely want to play that now because this is checkmate. So let's just do this. I'm sure there's some finagling they might be able to do here. Knight back here, we might just take. Just open the king up like that. I think that's pretty useful, to be honest. So, oh no, because the queen's just going to come back and take anyway. So why don't we can push here, take. Let's say take. Yeah, I like that. We haven't done that whole decision tree thing, but again, we just don't have the time. Oddly tempted by this. I think we're well defended here, and if they push, we can just do that. I think this is interesting. Not 100% sure what it does, but it's provocative. There's a bishop sacrifice here we need to be wary of. Now I'm thinking we do this, right? Slam them in there. That's check. If they come across, then we actually sacrifice this rook. Not even a sacrifice. Well, if they capture it, then we've got a discovered check. And we can do something with that, maybe. But, maybe do that with it. Discovered check with the rook here. Sorry, I'm gone. I just need to see that on the board. We're getting pretty sleepy, and that could be pretty Kotov-y. What happens if we do that all now? Check. Not quite. The queen is now well fortified. Let's put a bit of squeeze here. Is there anything crazy? I don't think so. I think this is always going to be a danger, but we're good. We're safe there. I think time is of the essence here. That's one thing about the Kotov syndrome is you spend a lot more time when you try to do that method, so it's not crazy. Why don't we just throw this in here? Let's just get them unsettled, you know? Yeah, no, fair. Obviously, that's something we were interested in. That was definitely a waste of time. That was a Kotov move, but we're not dead in the water or anything like that. I think we step up here, keep the contact here. We could do this now. And this becomes very interesting. Yeah, that becomes very interesting. Look at this. Look at this. That's trouble. That's trouble a brewing. Bang. Yeah, big trouble. Is this just checkmate? I think it's just checkmate. Bing. Poof. Got away with one there. Well, did we get away with one? That was kind of nice. Definitely a few Kotov syndromes in there. As I say, it's very difficult to avoid. It's going to happen pretty much every game. But I think we did a good job of, just at the very least, calculating a move that we wanted to play. Maybe this bishop in here was pretty what might you call it? Speculative. But ultimately it worked out, and we were on song there. We were making pressure. Okay, so we played a 75 accuracy according to the computer, which is not bad, but not great. Again, we were pretty. Well, I don't know if we were in control. I think we were a little bit risky at the back when they got their queen and their knight involved. But we didn't make any blunders. We did not play a single blunder this game. We made a couple of mistakes according to the computer, which I don't really mind. Again, you're going to have a couple of those most games you play, unless you are absolutely on song or you know your openings inside and out. But there wasn't too much like crazy mistakes that we went and did here. One of them was computer really wanted us to. Well, actually, I think it was after we stepped up our knight and we moved here. We went for this relatively spurious kind of bishop move, which we did call out as potentially being a Kotov system. We didn't really work out the finer details, but it ends up being a good move like later on. But the computer wanted us to play this here first, king here, just chase the knight away a little bit, or even kind of threaten the knight, but take a little bit of the sting out of maybe the bishop coming in here or coming in and taking that pawn there as well if the king is there to defend it. Just a little bit safer there and cause a few more issues for the computer. So again, not like an egregious error to miss that move. We did play this, which like eventually does become a decent enough move, particularly when we were able. They blunder their knight, which is fair enough. Like that's gonna happen, but they blundered it because we didn't blunder any of our pieces first, and we just kept building pressure, and then eventually we were able to find a nice little checkmate. To be honest, yeah, a real symphony checkmate. 4 pieces involved, and we're happy enough with that one. So that is Kotov Syndrome, the act of making a blunder after calculating a move, throwing away a couple of moves, and just throwing something out on the board to get it into your opponent's court again. How to avoid that? You can do the whole tree of analysis thing where you pick 3 candidate moves, you analyze each of them, and you look at the final position, you think about the final position, and then pick which one you want best. That's very, very high level. Like I wouldn't be as super comfortable doing that every single time, and that's going to take a huge amount of time. What I would say from a kind of a beginner or intermediate perspective is just do a little bit of calculation on each move you put on the board. So just make sure that each move you put on the board, you have looked into what your opponent is going to respond with, and if you're happy with that, if you're happy with their immediate response. And that sounds very simple, sounds very like introductory to chess, but even doing that act of checking what your opponent would do after your move can help you spot just like some really simple blunders, which is what we're trying to avoid here. So I hope you found that useful. I hope you found that engaging. And as always, feel free to subscribe and stick around for more chess content. And as always, enjoy your chess. Thank you.